Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Ajay Solkhe, presently working as Assistant Professor, University School of Management, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, Haryana. In this module, we are going to deliberate upon the workers' education. We will be discussing the concept of workers' education, the objective behind workers' education, its contents, venue and techniques, and lastly the schemes of worker participation and the various levels on which worker education can be continued and the evaluation of the scheme. Upon completion of the module, the students should be able to understand the concept of workers education, its objectives and rationale behind its existence, contents of the workers education programs, schemes for the workers education in India and the levels of workers education. The workers of a country are the most significant component of the community, and they need to be socially and psychologically satisfied by providing for them opportunities for education and training. It has been aptly said, the major capital stock of an industrially advanced country is not its physical equipment, it is the body of knowledge amassed from the tested findings and the capacity and training of population to use this knowledge effectively. It has been aptly said, the major capital stock of an industrially advanced country is not its physical equipment, it is the body of knowledge amassed from the tested findings and the capacity and the training of population to use this knowledge effectively. It has now been increasingly realized that there is a growing need for the kind of education that will properly equip workers and trade unions to meet their increasingly heavy economic and social responsibilities. Workers' education, the concept of worker education. Though the concept of workers' education is in vogue for the last 45 years or so, its various dimensions have not been clearly spelled out. That is why it has not been possible to explain as to what the term workers' education means. The ILO in its Copenhagen seminar in 1956 considered the question of workers' education, but due to sharp difference of opinion among experts, no unanimity on the concept was reached. Further, the terms workers' education connotes different meanings for different countries on account of developmental, cultural, and historical reasons. For instance, in the United States of America, workers' education is considered as synonymous with training in trade union leadership, whereas in the UK, it covers trade unionism, in general, adult education, and vocational education. In many Western European countries, the term workers' education refers to education in citizenship, folk schools in Denmark, Levin schools in Germany. In developing countries like India, the term workers' education is used in its wider connotation and aims at making the worker a better operative, a better union member, and a better citizen. In the words of William Flade, workers' education is an attempt on the part of the organized labor to educate its own members under an educational system in which the workers prescribe the courses of instructions, select the teachers, and in a considerable measure furnish the finance. In this context, Florence Peterson observed the term workers' education as commonly used is not a generic term but has a very specific connotation. It is a special kind of adult education designed to give workers a better understanding of their status, problems, rights, and responsibilities as workers, as union members, as consumers, and as citizens. The Encyclopedia of Social Sciences views that workers' education help a worker solve his problems not as an individual but as a member of his social class. The worker education has to take into consideration the educational needs of the worker as an individual for his personal evolution, as an operative for his efficiency and advancement, as a citizen for a happy and integrated life in the community, as a member of a trade union for the protection of his interest as a member of the working class. Here we are going to discuss some of the salient features of the workers' education in India. The scope of the workers' education is much wider than that of trade union education, but is narrower than that of adult education. The workers' education is designed to create trade union consciousness among workers, besides making them good citizens and training them to understand their status, rights, and responsibilities. In workers' education, the workers themselves prescribe the curriculum and select the teachers who have full sympathy with the working class. The institutions providing workers' education are owned, financed, and managed by the workers. It is aimed at increasing the bargaining power of trade unions and making the working class more sensible and cooperative. It differs from vocational and professional education, for its main aim is to train a worker for his group advancement and increasing individual creativity, whereas vocational and professional education aims at individual development. The approach in workers' education is psychological and philosophical. It includes general education, vocational education, technical education, social education, and training in trade unionism. Looking at some of the objectives behind workers' education programs is the basic objective of worker education is to make the worker an efficient individual, disciplined trade union member, and an intelligent corporate citizen so that he plays a pivotal role in the socio-economic development of the country. To foster workers' loyalty towards the union and imparting the necessary training to them for intelligent and efficient participation in union activities. Besides teaching them trade union dynamics, history, etc., which they need to know as trade union members, to develop the workers for good and respectable civic life. To promote among workers a greater understanding of the problems of the country's economic environment and their privileges, rights, and obligations as union members and citizens. To develop trade union leadership from among the rank and file, thereby keeping the union away from the clutches of politicians, leading to democratization of trade union administration. To familiarize the workers with the capitalist culture and philosophy, which is the soul of the modern industrial system. To inculcate among workers a better understanding of their duties, responsibilities, and intricacies of work so that they can effectively carry out their jobs. To enable the worker to realize the purpose of human life and raise him to the height of achievement. To equip organized labor to take its place in a democratic society so that it plays a dominant role in the process of economic development and fulfills effectively its social and economic functions and responsibilities. In the words of the Director General of the International Labour Organization, the primary aim of worker education is to enable the worker to put his finger on the problems confronting him in his social group. He must acquire culture so that, in his capacity as an individual, he can locate his proper place within his own trade milieu. He himself has to realize the obstacles deriving from customer habit in his activity. He must understand both his position in the enterprise as well as the role of the enterprise itself within the general framework of national and economic development. He must know what man represents and how he should behave in society, family, neighborhood, workplace, and nation. The training program will stem logically from the worker's place in society, the study of his rights and duties, the need for trade unionism and its role, knowledge of economic principles, labor legislation, and human relations, without losing sight of a few basic essentials such as how to write a report, how to calculate a wage sheet, how to contribute effectively in meetings, all of which shall help to equip him to express and put to practical use the ideas, experience, and teaching he has received. In the view of the National Commission on Labour, workers' education should make a worker a responsibly committed and disciplined operative to understand the basic economic and technical aspects of the industry and the plant where he is employed so that he can take an intelligent interest in its affairs, aware of his rights and obligations, to understand the organization and functioning of the union, as well as develop qualities of leadership, loyalty, and devotion to trade unionism so that he may intelligently participate in the affairs of his union, to lead a clean and healthy life based on a firm ethical foundation, to make the worker responsible and alert citizen. In the view of Workers' Education Review Committee of India, the objectives of worker education are to equip all sections of the workers, including rural workers, for intelligent participation in the social and economic development of the nation in accordance with its declared objectives. Develop among workers a greater understanding of the problems of the social and economic environment, their responsibilities to the family members, and the rights and obligations as citizens, as workers in industry and as members and officials of their trade unions. Develop leadership from among the file and rank of the workers themselves. Develop strong, united, and more responsible trade unions through more enlightened members and better trained officials. Strengthen democratic processes and traditions in the trade union movement, and enable trade unions themselves to take over ultimately the functions of workers' education. According to an ILO publication, the workers' education should always be a two-way communication. They should aim not at the mere cramming of information but aim at developing new skills and greater power of judgment. Start from and be related to the actual experience of the worker student. Be designed to promote intelligent social system, and worker education should be conducted in an atmosphere of cooperative research. Worker education programs and its contents. The content of a worker education cannot be put in a watertight compartments. For the cultural outlook, historical background, availability of resources, both human and non-human, and stage of economic development differ from country to country. But in general, the scope and content of the workers' education should be determined according to environment, level of industrialization, and union development. It should include different types of education ranging from general education to trade union education and cover vocational guidance, technological training, literacy, and artistic studies in the manner of conducting conferences and seminars. The content of workers' education should be built around such core subjects as industrial economics, particularly the organizational and financial aspects of industrial units, industrial and social psychology, industrial sociology, about economics, philosophy, and cooperative and community organizations. Some of the aspects pertaining to workers' education and training has been organized into four heads. One is organization, second is relevant labor, third is economic and social problems, and fourth is trade union leadership. In the organization category, recruitment of members, framing of a constitution, registration, collection of dues, maintenance of accounts, correspondence and other office work, submission of returns, propaganda, preparation of research memoranda, fighting cases in labor courts, negotiations with the employers and the state, relevant labor, economic and social problems such as the grievance procedures, methods of collective bargaining, determination of wages, productivity problems, economics of employment and social security, planning for economic development, provisions of social and labor legislation, labor welfare and international labor problems. In the head of trade union leadership, workers' education should also deal directly with the history of the trade union movement in India, the structure, constitution, administration and methods of organization of trade unions, communication with members, delegation of authority, elections of representatives, aims and objectives of trade unions and methods of achieving these, holding of meetings and writing of reports, trade union finance, general and political funds, audit, accounts, control and safety of funds, mutual insurance. In the trade union leadership category, workers' education should also deal directly with the history of the trade union movement, the structure, constitution, administration and methods of organization of trade unions, communication with members, delegation of authority, elections of representatives, aims and objectives of trade unions and methods of achieving these, holding of meetings and writing of reports, trade union finance, general and political funds, audit, accounts, control and safety of funds, mutual insurance, welfare work of trade unions, community services, cultural, recreational, educational and cooperative activities, union management relations, implementation of laws and awards, strikes and demonstrations, union-state relations, labor administration and policy, inter-union relations, social labor legislation and practices and concerning their legal rights and obligations. Regarding the venue and the techniques, the workers' education programs may be organized in the industry premises itself. The workers may also be given practical training in the field. The extension work too may form a part of the program of workers' education. The techniques employed in imparting workers' education are general lectures, delivered in simple, direct and unambiguous language, discussion on the topics and issues involved, organization of study groups, correspondence course. Besides these, modern teaching methods are also deployed, and for this purpose, a number of educational aids can be used: videotapes, films, film strips, recordings, pictorial charts, flashcards, posters, graphs, maps and diagrams, wall newspapers, etc. The demonstration talks, tests, seminars, debates, role-playing, symposia, case studies and two-way communication methods are also encouraging. The educational visits and study tours of the trainees to union offices, factories and multi-purpose projects are important aspects of workers' education. The scheme for workers' education. The Workers' Education Scheme was launched in 1958 by the Central Board of Workers' Education. The board is a tripartite body registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. It consists of a chairman, which is nominated by the government, representatives of the central and the state government, representatives of the central trade unions and the employers organization, representatives of the UGC, Indian Adult Education Association and one independent trade unionist nominated by the Ministry of Labour and Employment. The total number of members does not exceed 20. The board consists of one chairman, one ex officio secretary and 20 members. The board has a network of 49 regional centers located in 4 zones with offices at Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi and Madras and 10 sub-regional centers located in different parts of the country. For each regional center, a regional advisory committee has been constituted to review the progress of the scheme in the region, to suggest themselves for the proper implementation of the program and to guide the center. The boards and the regional centers also prepare a wide variety of study material on different aspects of industrial relations and allied matters in the form of mimeographed lessons, notes, seminar papers, role play scripts and the case studies which are prepared in English and translated into Hindi and other regional languages. The board also undertakes the preparation of audio-visual aids required for education and training such as your film strips, flop cards, flash cards, posters, stickers. Additionally, it also brings out the Workers' Education Journal every quarter. The board provides grant in aid to the registered trade unions and other institutions for conducting their own workers' education program. Besides this, it also provides grant in aid for national level courses to the central trade unions and the central federations. Generally, 2 types of grants are provided, namely maintenance grant required to meet operational expenses and other equipment grants to meet expenditure on furniture, library, audiovisual aids and other teaching aids. Indian Institute of Workers' Education. Indian Institute of Workers' Education was established in March 1970 in Bombay. It is another agency involved in the task of workers' education. The main objective of the institute is to impart training to educational officers, the central trade union leaders and industrial federations at the apex level. The institute serves as a demonstration and information center and act as a nucleus around which specialized programs for the training of labor revolves. The institute has developed and perfected methods and tools for teaching and has produced study material, publications and audiovisual aids and has promoted research. It conducts 1-week training programs for trade union officials, refresher courses for education officers, 2-week training programs for officials on the economics of trade unionism, 3 1-week training programs for a variety of workers. Levels of workers' education. In India, workers' education has been provided at the national level, regional level, and the unit and village level. National level. It is the topmost level of worker education. At this level, education officers are trained. The participants for the program are selected by Central Board of Worker Education and are trained at a central place by the board officials. It is the most important level of the workers' education program as it aims at the education of members of central trade union organizations and federations, pre-employment training of educational officers, and refresher courses for board officials. The prospective educational officers are directly selected from the open market. Generally, persons with a master's degree in economics, commerce or education with 3 years of work experience in the field of human resource management, they are chosen for the task. They are given 6 months intensive training before being placed on the job in different regional centers. The training staff includes union leaders, employers' representatives, educationists, administrators and the like. These officials in turn, after the successful completion of the training courses, are posted at regional centers on the basis of their Regional linguistic proficiency. Regional level. The regional level programs are aimed at imparting necessary training to selected workers. The workers so educated are known as workers teachers. The board, through a network of 49 plus regional centers and 10 sub-regional centers, conduct this program. At the regional level, worker teachers are trained, who in turn educate the rank and the file worker at the unit and the village level. The regional level activities are monitored by the 4 zonal offices located at Delhi, Kolkata, Madras and Bombay. For each regional center, there is an advisory committee which reviews its progress of the scheme and recommend measures for its effective working. The worker teacher forms a very strong link between the education officers and workers at the unit level. The education officers, on completion of their training, they are posted to different centers and are entrusted with the training of prospective teachers from among the workers in a full-time training course of 3 months duration in batches of about 25 to 30 persons. These selected workers are known as worker teachers. They are selected by the local committee and by the director of regional centers from various industrial units and workshops in the region. The eligibility requirement for this course is 7th standard pass and some experience as a trade union member. The board prefers workers below the age of 45 years. Unit village level. This is the final stage of the program. The worker teachers, on completion of their training, return to their workplace and conduct program for rank and file of workers at their respective units. The third level in the program of the worker education scheme relates to training of rank and file workers by the specially trained teachers at the unit level. The workers who are trained at the regional level revert to their places of employment and conduct programs at the unit level, largely after working hours. The regional centers closely supervise the work at different units and assist and guide worker teachers in conducting their classes efficiently and smoothly. Since no hard and fast rules have been framed for the selection of workers for classes at the unit level, worker teachers have to exercise their discretion while selecting the workers. Generally, preference is given to workers having some educational background. Further, workers in the age group of 24 to 45 years of age are given priority. The worker teachers conduct 3 months part-time course for workers at the unit level, besides 3 weeks full-time course in those units which deputes workers for the course. The syllabi for the course is trade union oriented and covers the subjects worker and trade unions, workers and industry, workers, his family and his country, etc. The honorarium to worker teachers are decided and revised by the board. Review of the worker participation scheme in India. The Workers' Education Board, in its review committee's report, has clearly stated that trained workers were assuming an important role in their trade unions and their knowledge had been of benefit to trade unions. The worker teachers had grown in stature and were gradually assuming a second line of leadership in unions. They had been participating in the deliberations of plant level committees and in other bipartite negotiations. Some of them have successfully appeared before the wage board and participated in conciliation proceedings. The National Commission on Labour's Committee on Workers' Education has very aptly stated, though training was not unfortunately of much help to trade union workers, it made the trainees good workers and stimulated in them an awareness of the importance of a trade union. Suggestions by National Commission on Labour for improving worker education. The National Commission on Labour has offered some of the useful suggestions which include the current procedures and rules for aid to trade unions for workers' education should be simplified and adapted to the structure and needs of the unions on the one hand and to the accountability of the public funds on the other. To make the transition towards this goal smoother, the employers should cooperate with the unions by giving them the facilities that are given by the board. The board should be put on a continuing basis in respect of its tenure. Union officials and organizers at the senior level should receive functional education suited to their respective roles. For this purpose, the National Trade Union Centers, in collaboration with universities and research institutions, should clearly draw up a suitable program. Workers' education program should be a post-literacy program, for which purpose the government should undertake an extensive adult literacy program. The literature produced by the Central Board of Workers' Education should not only be increased but also improved qualitatively. Friends, I hope you have understood the contents well. You can also refer to other quadrants of this module for testing on knowledge and having some more input on the theme of the module. Happy learning!